What kind of role did the Nazis play in the formation of NASA and NATO? Is it true that US used Nazi intelligence to counter the Soviets? So after the end of the Second World War, a bunch of these high-ranking Nazi officers, members of Adolf Hitler's inner circle, etc., where well, obviously they were captured, they were arrested, they were put on trial, the Nuremberg trials, and a whole bunch of them were hanged over there, hanged as a consequence of being found guilty of various crimes, various war crimes. That happened, but many of them were not punished, and many of them went on to play significant roles in NATO, in NASA. So let's go to our friend Google one more time. Where is Google? And let us Google a couple of people. One is Adolf Huizinga. Who is this gentleman, Adolf Huizinga? The former Inspector General of the Bundeswehr. This guy was a German military officer whose career spanned the German Empire, the Weimar Republic, Nazi Germany, West Germany, and NATO. He served as the chairman of the NATO Military Committee from 1961 to 64. Okay. He was the operations chief within the general staff of the high command of the Nazi German army in the Wehrmacht from 1938 to 1944. So this guy was a clear Nazi, and he became the chairman of the NATO Military Committee. Can you believe that? Yes. Here he is with the US Foreign Secretary Robert McNamara in Washington, D.C., 1964. Isn't that interesting? NATO, Adolf Huizinga. That's just one example. Okay, let's Google another guy. What was his name? Saturn. I forget the guy's name. He's a very, very, very famous name. Saturn V Chief Engineer. Saturn 5. Werner von Braun. The great man, the pioneer, the father of the rocket of modern rocketry. Great rocket engineer, Werner von Braun. So this guy, well, he worked for the Nazis. He was the guy who developed the first ever cruise missile. Okay, and also the first ever ballistic missile. The first cruise missile was what, the V1, I believe. A career in Germany. Experiments cruise missile. Okay, the V1 and the V2 were so the V2 is the first ballistic missile, and the V1 or the Doodlebug V1. Where is the V1? There's no V1 here. Doodlebug. Okay. So he developed the V1 and the V2 rockets. Great rocket scientist. Eventually, he was captured by he surrendered to the Americans. He was taken prisoner, essentially. He was moved to the United States, and he eventually became the head of NASA. Okay, let's see what it says here. Okay, space architect, etc., and a pioneer. What does it say about his career in NASA? He was the chief architect of the Saturn V super heavy lift launch vehicle, and so on. What was his career in NASA? He was the boss in NASA, wasn't he? So this is him in NASA with his rockets, and so on. So that's another guy, Werner von Braun. So when it comes to NASA pioneered the entire American space program. They did it with German technology. It was all German technology. The Americans developed none of this technology from scratch. They captured a bunch of German missiles. They shipped them to the United States, captured a bunch of German rocket engineers, such as Werner von Braun and his people. And these guys are the ones that created the American space program. When it comes to to NATO, a bunch of Nazis in there, at least one we know of, Adolf Huizinga. So, very interesting history. And yeah, that's the history.